All right, let's dive right in. Welcome to This Explainer. If you've ever wondered how the absolute top-tier business schools get their global bragging rights, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today we're decoding the notoriously ruthless rulebook behind the Financial Times Master in Management Ranking, the FT MiM. This isn't just some arbitrary list. It literally dictates global prestige and, frankly, the true valuation of your career.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap. We'll scan the 2025 global landscape, decode that strict FT methodology, uncover why alumni essentially hold all the power, and finally, look at a really fascinating real-world case study with FEP.
So Part 1, the 2025 MiM global landscape. We're looking at European dominance versus Asian growth.
Looking at the 137 programs participating this year, Europe still has this absolute iron grip. I mean, France alone has 25 schools in the top 100. But, that total dominance is definitely facing some serious heat. Elliot Ingram over at ClearAdmit hit the nail on the head when he pointed out the massive growth in Asian programs. In fact, 3 of the top 20 programs are now based in China. So, for recent grads, the playing field is getting way wider, which makes nabbing those top spots exponentially more competitive.
But if we zoom into the absolute elite tier, nothing changed. The top 3 schools are exactly the same as last year, which just goes to show how incredibly hard it is to break into that upper echelon. The University of St. Gallen took the #1 spot for a mind-blowing 14th time, right ahead of HEC Paris. And INSEAD holding strong at number 3? That's just wild when you realize their very first MIM class only graduated in 2021, and they literally just entered these rankings last year.
Moving on to Part 2, Deciphering the FT methodology. Let's look at the actual rules of the game. So how does a school actually make it onto this incredibly prestigious list? Well, it's not just about having a great reputation or a fancy campus. A school can't just raise its hand and say, hey, rank us. They have to clear some massive administrative hurdles before a single point of data is even looked at. Before anything else, there are strict baseline requirements. The program absolutely has to be full-time, cohort-based, and geared towards students with little to no work experience. The institution itself needs an AACSB or EQUIS accreditation. But here is a crucial detail. Keep this in the back of your mind. The program must have a minimum of 30 eligible graduates in the cohort being assessed. If they check all those boxes, the school then has to successfully supply contact info for those specific alumni exactly 3 years post-graduation.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, the power of alumni data, or as I like to call them, the true kingmakers.
If you only remember one thing from this explainer, let it be this. Alumni hold all the power, period. Their survey responses dictate 8 of the 19 ranking criteria, making up a massive 56% of the total score. The school's own data? That's only 44%. Basically, the school builds the foundation, but the graduates completely design the house that sits on top of it.
And that brings us to a literal deal breaker, the 20 rule. This is a mandatory threshold where a school needs at least a 20% response rate from their alumni and a minimum of 20 fully completed surveys from the class that graduated 3 years ago. If the alumni don't fill out those mandatory fields, it's game over. The school is disqualified entirely, no matter how amazing the program is.
Okay, so assuming a school survives the 20 rule, what data actually moves the needle the most? Unsurprisingly, it's money. The current average weighted salary of the alumni holds the single highest weight at 15%. And to keep it fair globally, local salaries are converted to US dollars using purchasing power parity. But listen, if graduates skip this question and don't provide their compensation data, the survey is basically useless.
Right behind that, with a 9% weight, is salary increase. This tracks the jump from the graduate's first MIM-level job right out of the gate to what they're making 3 years later. Half of this looks at the absolute dollar amount increase, and the other half looks at the percentage jump. It's a huge indicator of career momentum.
Now, to make sure these numbers aren't just a fluke, the FT uses a multi-year smoothing technique. Current year responses carry 50% of the weight, while the data from the previous 2 years carried 25% each. This is super smart because it neutralizes weird inflation spikes and rewards programs that deliver consistent, reliable career growth year after year.
All right, Part 4, the FEP performance case study. Let's see this data in action.
Let's take all this theory and apply it to a real-world scenario with FEP's Master in Management. In a ridiculously competitive global field, FEP made an incredible climb. They jumped from number 70 worldwide in 2024 straight up to number 62 in 2025.
I mean, that is a massive, highly impressive leap.
When you actually break down how they pulled off that jump, you see the FT methodology doing exactly what it's designed to do. In 2024, they were the top performer in Portugal for value for money. And by 2025, their grads reported a whopping 66% average salary increase 3 years after graduating. Remember that 9% weight for salary increase we just talked about? Yeah, that 66% jump definitely fueled their climb up the ranks. So, achieving #1 in Portugal for return on academic investment and career progression is fantastic, right? But here is where the absolute strictness of the Financial Times rulebook bites back hard. Despite hitting that incredible number 62 spot in 2025, FEP was officially notified on June 9th that they are actually ineligible for the upcoming 2026 ranking. Why? Remember those baseline administrative hurdles? First, if you exclude 2 double-degree students, they only had 28 eligible graduates in the assessment cohort. That is just shy of the absolute minimum of 30. And secondly, out of the 21 alumni who did respond, only 13 provided their salary data. Because salary data is an absolute eliminatory factor, FEP was disqualified. Just like that.
So, what does this all mean? It proves, without a doubt, that a school's global standing rests squarely in the hands of its graduates. Moving forward, schools like FEP are going all in on career support. We're talking LinkedIn recommendations, direct employer introductions, CV feedback, and major alumni networking. But guys, it is a two-way street. If you're a student or an alum, you need to engage. Register on the FEP Career Portal. Use the services, because 3 years from now, when that FT survey lands in your inbox, you have a choice. Will you take 5 minutes to validate your degree's worth on the global stage, or will you let your program fall off the map? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it completely changes how you view the true power behind these international rankings.